Adam Besserman, who is the Director of West Coast Development for Original Video Programming at Yahoo, is joining us today, and he's responsible for overseeing creative development and programming for Yahoo's original video across verticals and demographic viewer segments. Adam facilitates the financing, licensing, development, and distribution of premium online original programming, including Tom Hanks' Electric City, Anthony Zucker's Cybergeddon, Ben Stiller's Burning Love, Morgan Spurlock's Mansom, and many more. Prior to joining Yahoo, Adam worked for Endemol, Paramount Digital Entertainment, and CBS Interactive, where he was responsible for developing original digital programming. After Adam's talk this morning, we will have a Q&A, and Jose and I will be walking around the floor with microphones for that, so get your questions ready. And with that, let me welcome Adam Besserman. Adam?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for coming out this morning. Today I'm here to talk about opportunity. And that's because right now, it's an incredibly exciting time to be in the storytelling business. The whole media landscape is shifting, it's changing, and it's creating a lot of really exciting opportunities for storytellers and really anybody who's involved in the storytelling business as a whole. So today I'm going to share my thoughts on how I see this opportunity forming, how it's taking shape right now, how it's forming out on the horizon, and how at Yahoo, we're taking advantage of this opportunity as a company, how we're programming originals to really dive in and take advantage of these changes. And what I'm really hoping is that at the end of this, I could leave you all with a clear sense of how you can go and take advantage of this opportunity for yourselves. So first, I'm just going to start by providing a little overview of what I'll be covering. I'll start by explaining a little bit about the online video landscape, how that landscape is changing, how it's shifting. Audience behavior is changing in some massive ways right now, and it's creating all of this opportunity that I'm going to talk about. I'll get into how we're programming at Yahoo. Our overall programming strategy has changed quite a bit over the last couple of years. We're programming a lot more like a traditional TV network, or like a movie studio in some cases. And that's largely due to all of these other changes happening out in the macro media landscape. So I'll talk a little bit about how we started programming at Yahoo and how that's changed over the past couple of years. I'll talk a little bit about best practices. Overall, what we're finding is working, what maybe isn't necessarily working, where we're looking to double down up ahead in the future, and really just try to provide some clear tactical specifics for all of you on how you could go about aligning, whether it's your product, your service, or whatever it is that you're looking to offer to align with a major distribution platform, and maybe some of the best ways to go about making that happen. Then finally, at the end, there should be a little time left over for some Q&A. So first, I want to talk about storytelling, because storytelling, this is why we're here. This is our great craft. For the last 20,000 years, from the first hand shadow puppets projected up against a cave wall to modern cinema, storytelling is how we transmit our culture. And as powerful as storytelling is, what I find really interesting is that the whole medium of storytelling is reliant on the technology available at your disposal. Another way of phrasing this is to even go so far as to say that the whole media business is reliant on the technology business. From those first cave fires and little hand shadow puppets to the earliest days of the printing press, to modern HD Wi-Fi instant streaming. The reality is that spreading your story as far as you could spread it, as wide as you can spread it, and as quickly as you could spread your media has always relied on the technological tools that we've had available at our disposal. Now, history's full of some really interesting examples that support this, but there's one that I'm going to focus on, which is the most recent example, which is really completely revolutionizing the way that audiences consume video, and that's mobile. So I'll talk a bit about mobile video adoption right here. This chart on the left, this tracks mobile data traffic. Now, within this chart, there's a little green bar. That represents video. Now, you'll see in around 2009, which if you could see it, it's the second one. It goes from 2008 to 2013. In 2009, video consumption as a behavior began to emerge on mobile. It grew significantly going into 2010, and it absolutely ramped up and exploded, leading all the way into 2013. Now, this chart on the right shows unit shipments for the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad. And keep in mind that the iPod completely revolutionized the media business. It totally changed the music industry. And iPod shipments are represented by this little tiny, barely discernible green sliver right here at the bottom. Now, iPhone shipments, represented by the red bar here, ramped up much more quickly than iPod. And the iPad shipments just absolutely exploded in blue and left the other two completely in the dust. Now, it's no coincidence, it's no accident that as the iPhone and the iPad shipments just absolutely exploded, we saw mobile video explode as well. It was getting this technology in the hands of our users that changed their viewing behavior. It allowed them to consume video in new ways, and the metrics aligned just perfectly. Now, that example focuses on how technology can change how people consume content. But what about technology changing the way that a network programs content? When you look at video distribution, there's really three main pillars. We started out with broadcast television, we then got into cable, and then came the internet. And if you look at the evolution of cable and the evolution of the internet, there's a few really interesting parallels between the two that I want to share with you. So let's look at cable first. Cable started off as a utility. We had television with 3 channels, and when cable came along, it didn't provide a dozen new channels. Cable was a sheer utility to provide clean, clear access to those same 3 channels that you ordinarily had access to. Cable was advertised in its early days as snow-free TV. It was a way to plug a clean pipe into your television set and pull out the rabbit ears and actually get clean reception. Now, what followed was public access television, new channels appearing on the dial, local creators, low quality, high volume, inexpensive programming that began to appear as new networks on the dial and cable. And what that led to was a whole period of mass adoption, just as a result of the power of the utility, as a result of the power of the public access channels creating new networks on the dial. We saw mass adoption of this technology, which led to fragmentation of more channels appearing on the dial, which led to more fragmented types of programming that we began to see as well. Well, that paved the way for licensed reruns in the television business. It's how we saw TBS advertising and running reruns of The Brady Bunch every single day, or a place where through HBO or Showtime you could watch movies without ever leaving your couch. And that, of course, paved the way for original programming. And this was the key watershed moment in cable's evolution. It was that moment when all of these cable networks recognized that they had an opportunity to create original programs that would serve to define their networks. And what was really amazing about this is that the programs did come to define their networks. You look at HBO with The Sopranos, The Wire, and Game of Thrones. On the basic cable side, you've got AMC with programs like Mad Men, The Walking Dead, and Breaking Bad. These programs became more of a reason for viewers to have access to these cable networks, purely to get these exclusive original programs that define these networks. Well, we're seeing a really similar shift with the evolution of the internet. The internet started out as a utility as well. It was a great way to access information. It was a lot easier and more effective than going to the library, and it was a great way to stay in touch with people. Instead of writing a letter, you can send an email and get a quick response without waiting 2 weeks. That led to this period, just like with public access, of UGC programming, new networks on the dial appearing on the internet that allowed, just like public access, amateur, relatively inexpensive, high-volume production to begin to appear on this medium. We saw it with sites like eBaum's World, which paved the way for YouTube. That, of course, led to mass adoption and fragmentation, just like it did with cable, which, of course, paved the way for licensed reruns on the internet. That's how Netflix came about. It's how Hulu came about. It's a place where on Hulu you could watch reruns of 30 Rock on demand anytime you want. Or on Netflix, you could watch movies just like you would on HBO. And what's happened just over the last couple of years is that watershed moment on the internet where all of these online distribution platforms recognize an opportunity to start creating original programs that would serve to define their networks. Just like HBO and AMC and Showtime did, we're seeing it across the board with every major online distribution platform. Yahoo, YouTube, AOL, Crackle, Hulu, Netflix, Funny or Die. I could go on. Everybody is focusing on creating premium original programming that will serve to define their network. And it's going to happen. So forgetting what we've already seen, let's just look ahead for a minute. And I'll sort of ruminate and wax poetic with you on a couple of ways that I think that storytelling will begin to evolve, and we're going to see just a massive evolution. Because I really firmly believe, and it may be a bit idealistic, but I believe that we're standing on the precipice of a creative renaissance. And I think the thing that's driving it is this shift in technology. It's the shift in new platforms that are allowing storytellers to create stories in completely new ways. Because the reality is, in the film and TV business, we haven't seen massive radical evolution in how we create our stories. On the film side, the one area where we've really improved, where we've really gotten a lot better, is in maximizing our production efficiency. We've gotten really good at democratizing the production process, creating bigger, more exciting spectacle for less cost. You look at Cleopatra from 1963. Huge, big studio blockbuster, really expensive for its time. In today's dollars, adjusted for inflation, Cleopatra would have cost $100 million more than Pacific Rim. Now, yes, from a storytelling perspective, we've gotten a bit more nuanced in terms of how we craft our stories. We've certainly created new genres and subgenres within the storytelling medium, but ultimately, above all else, the one area where we've really improved has been in just creating bigger, more exciting spectacle for less money. We haven't really changed the way we tell our stories since The Jazz Singer combined picture and sound 85 years ago. And it's pretty much the same thing with the TV business. For the last 60 years, we haven't really changed the way that we tell our stories. We've created new genres and subgenres within television, and we've certainly gotten better at telling stories, but we've been programming the same half hours and hours and extended specials that we have for the past 60 years. Well, with the internet right now, there's some really exciting changes that I think are going to completely revolutionize the way that we even approach storytelling. The first is the liberation of the format. We're not locked into creating those 22s, 44s, and 60 to 120-minute length programming anymore. That box doesn't exist. For the first time ever, storytellers can allow creative to dictate format, and not the other way around, which is how it's always been. So when a writer sits down at their computer, begins to type fade in, they're thinking about their story in a completely new way. They're going to allow that story to unfold and to be as pure and true and authentic and genuine to the pure DNA of what that story is meant to be and what it should be. That story could take the form that, any form that the writer thinks is best for that story. And that opportunity has never existed before for a writer to create a story with that in mind, with the understanding that they could reach mass audience. These stories could take the form of, they may make the most sense in hours, they may make the most sense as 10 minutes, they may make the most sense as daily 1-minute episodes, or a combination of all of these, where it's the hour-long TV show with the 10-minute online series with the 1-minute, 3 times a day mobile experience that wraps around it. It could be anything, and the creative is going to dictate that. I think another thing that's going to help drive it is the liberation of distribution release schedules. Netflix just really blew the lid off of everything by releasing House of Cards and all their other originals, all the episodes, binge consumption, day and date, go nuts audience. What's great about that is that sort of in the same way that as the writer sits down, typing fade in, thinking about how they're going to allow this story to unfold, well, there's a new audience behavior. There's a new way that the viewer is engaging with and consuming that programming that hasn't really existed before. Previously, if you were writing television, you knew that your audience would be sitting on their couch on Thursday night, and they would be taking in your half-hour story this week, and they'll come back next week for that next half hour. That behavior dictates how our stories would unfold, how you would allow your characters to develop, how you would wrap up storylines, how in certain episodes you would create the right cliffhangers at just the right moments. Well, when you get rid of that whole locked-in audience consumption behavior, when there's the opportunity for a viewer to just consume all the episodes in a single sitting, as a writer, as a director, as a creator, as an overall storyteller, there's a whole new opportunity to start crafting that story in a new way, because the viewer consumption, the viewer intent is very different than what it's always been. And then finally, interactivity, I think, is going to dramatically change the way that we begin to approach storytelling. Now, we have not yet seen an example of interactivity really enhancing storytelling in any meaningful way. There have been a lot of attempts at it, creating deeper, more immersive experiences or interactive extensions. Nobody's really figured it out yet. But I really believe that soon, over the next year, 2 years, we're going to start seeing some very exciting examples of this working. Xbox has been really vocal about interactivity being their clear differentiator. And it makes sense when you have that motion sensing Kinect technology available at your disposal, where a viewer sitting in front of their screen can wave their hand and impact what's happening on the screen. Well, that can dramatically change the way that we conceive and tell our stories. There's another model that I'm looking at a really big, meaningful way at Yahoo, which is really less about sort of how a storyteller would tell a story, but it's much more about just how the overall TV network model can potentially adapt as a result, and how it can evolve and change as a result of these changes that I'm talking about. And what we're looking at is really first and foremost recognizing that what we're observing is the biggest shift in audience behavior since television's entered the living room. It's a massive shift, and audiences are viewing content in different ways. Second screen behavior is absolutely massive. We're seeing the latest stat just came out that 88% of Americans who watch television and have a smartphone are engaging in second screen behavior. And the networks are paying attention to these kind of metrics. The networks are paying attention to the fact that Breaking Bad's series finale was the most tweeted about hour of TV ever. AMC's touting that as a huge success metric for that show. And as that audience behavior shifts, and we're already seeing it now with just a couple of months ago, time spent consuming online content surpassed time spent watching television for the first time ever. Americans are spending an average of 40 minutes per day extra consuming content online versus on TV. The networks are noticing this, and that's why every major TV network has a digital arm set up to help figure out what the future of this is going to look like. It's why every major TV production company has a digital department set up to help figure out what that's going to look like. These digital departments are really focusing on a couple of things. One, selling shows to major platforms like Yahoo, but also cracking what the future of TV is going to be. And so this model that we've been looking at and we've been working on, and I've met with dozens of the biggest TV production companies in the world, and major networks as well, is really looking at how can we create that win for both the digital groups that every major TV production company and every major network has, and the TV groups to high five over a win together, because that opportunity hasn't really happened yet. And there's a lot of exciting ways that that can unfold by essentially taking your TV program, but also baking in a digital component and hosting it on a major platform. Because the biggest disconnect on the network side has been the desire to own the digital rights. When the network's owning the digital rights exclusively, the challenge is that you can't leverage the strength, the power, and the scale of a major digital network to help drive viewership. It's why you'll get on Bravo.com, for example, is a great place to download the recipe from Top Chef. But if you really want to use that interactive digital experience to drive viewership for the show, you need a network with some power. You need a network that that's a destination. And all of the major digital platforms really can help provide that opportunity for the TV networks. So there's this one example here that, for me, is a really exciting one that I want to share with you that essentially says that looking out at all the different ways that from a storytelling perspective and from a modeling perspective these changes can occur, well, there's this one specific example from just the past year or so that I find really amazing. So YouTube. YouTube is the #1 video site on the web. They are the 800-pound gorilla. Every minute, 100 hours of content is uploaded to YouTube. And Gangnam Style is the #1 most watched video ever on YouTube. It's got 1.7 billion views, which I also think makes it the most watched piece of content ever created. So the #2 video on YouTube is Baby, Justin Bieber's music video. Now this blue line here represents the growth of Baby. It took 2.5 years for Baby to slowly, continually grow to reach around 800 million views. Gangnam Style comes out of nowhere. Some guy from Korea that nobody had ever heard of makes a music video that in 2.5 months reaches what it took Justin Bieber 2.5 years to do and skyrockets past Baby to now more than double the amount of views that Baby has gotten. What this says to me is that we don't know where this next thing is going to come from, but whatever it is, it has the potential to be absolutely massive and radically disruptive. And that's why at Yahoo we're focusing on finding original programs that can really take advantage of this type of an opportunity so that we could be poised to catch it next time it happens. So to give a little perspective into how we program, I'll start by just giving a little perspective into Yahoo as a media network. We're a massive media network. Yahoo's the #1 publisher of content on the web by about a factor of 10. The content that we publish reaches more people every day than any newspaper, any cable network, and any website. A couple of months ago, we just surpassed Google as the #1 website in America, as far as monthly active users actually go. All this content that we publish lives across a leading portfolio of media properties. Properties like Yahoo Sports, which is the #1 site on the web for sports, Yahoo News, which is #1 in news, Finance, which is #1, Yahoo Shine, our women's destination, and so forth to about a dozen major categories that we have #1 leadership position in. A lot of users consuming this content around the globe. About 800 million users coming to Yahoo every single month. 175 million in the US, 68 million users every single day coming to Yahoo to consume this content. And the way that we're approaching programming is really looking at leveraging all of these things. Leveraging the scale of our audience, leveraging the strength of our network and the volume of the content that we're rolling out, and the strength of our properties. That's why our original programming mandate really initially began with a focus on contextual programming. As the average Yahoo user is coming to Yahoo every day for sports to check the latest headlines, update their fantasy roster, or through finance, see what's happening in the market, update their portfolio, or through OMG and see what's happening in the world of celebrity pop culture, well, we started out by creating shows that aligned with this behavior. We would create sports shows that help you better manage your fantasy team, finance shows that help you better manage your portfolio, and news and information, celebrity pop culture shows that let you know what's happening in that world. And what it was essentially doing was recognizing what our audience is already doing on the network, creating shows that contextually align with their behavior, contextually align with the other content on the network, and use each of those properties as a funnel and as that fire hose of traffic for each of our original programs. And we've been doing it in a really big way. This past year, we released over 80 original programs on Yahoo. 20 of them were original branded series, and between our internal studios team and our external-facing team that oversees third-party production, we released over 400 episodes of original programming every single month. And we did this in a global way. Yahoo is a global network, and so we're releasing a lot of these programs globally, but additionally, we're looking at a number of these programs and how they could work as global formats. We have one show, The Thread, for example, which is a fashion and style show, which we launched as a global format in a number of global territories across Latin America, Asia, and Europe. Now, we started to really change the way that we approached original programming just a couple of years ago. Contextual programming was still very important to us, still very much part of our DNA, but we recognized that the whole online video business was changing. It was growing, and there was a new opportunity to do more and to grow our audience in a bigger way. That's because we recognized, first and foremost, consumption growth. Consumption of video content was growing at a rate of about 140% year over year over the last 3 years. It's absolutely massive. Just a couple of months ago, 40 billion videos were viewed on the web, and that's up from just 17 billion in 2009. And it's not just the same people watching more content, but the audience is growing as well. We're seeing audience growth projected to hit about 200 million Americans over the next couple of years. That's going to mean that 8 out of 10 Americans who actually use the internet are going to be watching video online. And what's really exciting about that is that, as I touched on earlier, it really points to the shift that's happening, which is the biggest shift in audience behavior since TVs entered the living room. And there's a migration taking place. Just over the last year, we saw over 1 million cable subscriptions canceled. And in the theatrical film business, we saw box office ticket sales fell to an all-time low last summer since 1991. Meanwhile, we're seeing online viewership explode. during primetime TV hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 p.m., Netflix controls 30% of the internet's traffic. That really tells you what people are doing during primetime hours. This is also signaling a shift in advertising spend. And that's where things start to get really exciting. Because of course, inevitably, as the audience flows into a new space, well, advertising dollars will follow that audience into that space. And we're seeing that happen in a really big way. Digiday recently released a study where they surveyed 800 of the biggest media buyers in the business, who said that they project that over the next year, 3/4 of digital video budgets are going to increase at a rate of 50% growth over the previous year. Now keep in mind that last year we saw digital video budgets grow 20%. So we're going to see a growth of over a doubling of what we saw over the last year with digital video budgets. What this also shows is that the fastest growing segment of all online behavior is video. And the fastest growing segment within video is premium video. The next phase of this exciting shift is that, of course, as the audience flows into the space and the advertising dollars follow that audience, well then top premium talent is interested in engaging within that space as well. The viewers that they want to reach are already there, and then the dollars to support their more ambitious programs are now there as well. So that's also why we've been working with some really exciting talent to create some big, exciting programs over the past couple of years and certainly looking ahead. We're focusing on premium original programming. We're doing it by aligning ourselves with top talent, top producers, and defining voices across the traditional media landscape. Just over the last 2 years, we partnered up with Tom Hanks to create our original series, Electric City, which is this post-apocalyptic thriller. We partnered up with Anthony Zuiker, the creator of CSI, to do our original series, Cybergeddon, which is a cybercrime thriller. We teamed up with Bill Maher to do the web's first ever live stand-up comedy special that was uncensored. And partnered up with Ben Stiller to create Burning Love with Paramount, which is our original comedy series that was a parody of The Bachelor, and a number of other really exciting programs with folks like Jack Black and Ed Helms. And across our properties, we forged some industry-leading TV network partnerships as well. With Yahoo News, #1 news site on the web, we partnered up with ABC News. Yahoo Sports partnered up with NBC Sports. OMG, our entertainment news site, we partnered up with OMG Insider. And with Yahoo Finance, we partnered up with CNBC. A couple really interesting metrics came out of this partnership that really signals what could potentially be a radical shift in how these TV networks buy programs as well. To sort of piggyback on what I was talking about earlier with this new potential model that we could see emerging of digital and TV hybrid programs selling to networks, we saw a couple examples come out of these network partnerships and support both the digital and the traditional side, that there's probably an opportunity to make it work in a big way. Through our Yahoo News, ABC News partnership, part of that partnership involves Good Morning America content flowing into Yahoo and Yahoo content flowing into ABC, and there's this whole cross-promotional mechanism that I don't need to get into. But the idea is that the #1 morning show in America for about 8 years running had been The Today Show. When we forged our partnership with ABC News and Good Morning America then began to appear on Yahoo, that month Good Morning America surpassed The Today Show and became the #1 morning show in America. And through our partnership with OMG Insider, we took our show, OMG Now, we partnered up with CBS Insider and made it one show, OMG Insider, that lives on TV with the digital extension that lives on Yahoo. That is the #1 most watched original series on the web and consistently has been month over month since we forged this partnership. Now, a number of these programs live within our comedy slate, which has been doing incredibly well for us too, like show Burning Love and the programs that we're doing with Jack Black and Ed Helms. When we launched our first comedy slate last summer, we only had 7 shows in our comedy slate, and it quickly became, that first month, the #1 comedy destination on the web. We beat out sites like Cracked, The Onion, and Funny or Die, just off these 7 shows that we had. That's the result of the massive power of the network helping drive viewership for those shows. And we created Yahoo Screen, which was essentially a video destination for all of this content to live in. The way that we have Yahoo News, Yahoo Sports, Yahoo Finance, all as industry-leading destinations and properties, we're really looking at Yahoo Screen to become that industry-leading video property as well. And now this past year, there's been a big focus on doubling down on all the efforts that we've seen work leading up to it, but also a recognition that when we look at where Yahoo fits in our users' daily lives, we recognize that Yahoo is very much in the center of our users' daily lives. Our average users are coming to us every single day for what we're calling their daily habits. They're coming to us every day to check their email, update their fantasy roster, use Yahoo Answers, Yahoo Search. All of these daily habits provide an opportunity to create programming and to create experiences that enhance all of those daily experiences for our users and give them even more reasons to come back every single day, whether it's across video, across text, or across photo. And also, there's an opportunity to create programming and a whole overall content curation experience that's designed towards a personalized experience that could really help build things out in a big way as well. This sort of leads into this idea of what we're calling Web 3.0, which is this phase of the internet that we believe we've just entered. Now, we see Web 1.0 largely as the early days of the internet, when all of the content that you wanted to access lived in siloed off specific little sites. If you wanted to know what was happening in the NBA, you would go to NBA.com. If you wanted to know what was happening in the world of celebrity pop culture, you could go to us.com, maybe even variety.com. Well, Web 2.0 really broke down a lot of those walls and led to this whole aggregated opportunity. It was a place where instead of going to all of these different sites to access all of this different information, you could simply go to, for news, Drudge Report. And if you go to this one site, you have tons of information, more information than you ever would have accessed on your own by going to many fewer sites. And we're seeing that across social in a huge way as well. We're just through Facebook and Twitter, tapping into your social graph, surfacing all this other content that's meaningful to you through your social graph allows the average user to access much more content than they ever ordinarily would have by going to much fewer sites. That was Web 2.0. We really see Web 3.0 as this personalized experience. It's the internet essentially knowing what you're interested in before you have to ask for it. It's the internet knowing what you click on, what you watch, what your social graph is interested in clicking on and watching, and what they're sharing, and pooling all of that together so that before you have to ask for a piece of information, before you would have to go to, say, a Drudge Report or a Facebook to access that aggregated information, Yahoo is able to surface that to you in a meaningful way. And that's why we completely redesigned the Yahoo experience this year. Earlier in the year, had we all gone to Yahoo right now, we'd all see the exact same version of the site. Everyone in America would see the same version of Yahoo at any given moment because it was an editorialized experience. Sort of the same way that the New York Times, there's only one issue of it today, it was kind of like that with Yahoo. Well, over this past year, as we redeveloped the Yahoo experience to be a more personalized experience, the Yahoo that you see will be very different than the Yahoo that you see, because the Yahoo that I see is tailored to the things that I click on, the things that I watch, and the things that I like. And so we see that as an opportunity to make the overall pie much larger, to drive much more consumption of much more content by surfacing more content that's meaningful, valuable, and relevant to more people. Now, getting into original programming, I'll walk through a little bit of the criteria that we look for in the shows that we choose. First, over the last year, we had 6 different categories that we were programming premium originals. There was comedy, there was lifestyle, news, sports, finance, and entertainment. And across all 6 of those properties, there were 3 criteria that we really wanted to apply to every single program. First, that we want these programs to be promotable. As I've already mentioned, Yahoo is a massive, powerful media network, and we can surface programming in a contextual, relevant, meaningful way for our audience. We need to be programming shows that allow for that experience to happen. So we need to be creating shows that we could surface and promote in a personalized way to our viewers, because ultimately that's what's going to help drive that initial mass audience around episode 1. But the shows need to be snackable as well. They need to be sticky and engaging enough that once we've gotten you to episode 1, you feel compelled to click through the next 5 to 10 episodes that are already there. This quick twitch type of programming. And this aligns with the whole idea that just like every other platform, we're programming to our existing audience behavior. And that behavior is that quick twitch type behavior. It's a PC behavior, it's a mobile behavior. It's the type of behavior that originates with, I'm checking my email, I'm reading a news headline, I'm updating my fantasy roster, and this video happened to catch my eye, and I stumble upon this video. Well, then it's got to be sticky enough to really keep you there, to go through the series, and then ultimately lead into being something that's shareable, something that you're really going to want to feel compelled to share with the rest of your social graph. Because this digital word of mouth is a remarkably powerful tool. And we really believe that if we could align all three of these criteria around a particular program, no matter what the category, we could really have the makings of a hit on our hands. So to get into one specific category, I'll talk a little bit about comedy. Comedy's been a big focus for us, and we're really focused on making Yahoo the daily destination for laughs. The way that news, sports, and finance are leading properties for us, we want comedy to be viewed that way on our network as well. And we're doing that by empowering fresh voices. We recognize this is the one thing that our viewers are going to judge us on. They're really going to want to see fresh, unique, compelling, original storytelling to help drive and help keep them there. And as I mentioned, it's a really exciting time in the media business where, as a result of this audience flowing into the space and the dollars flowing into the space and top talent now paying attention to the space in a big way, there's an opportunity to give this top traditional talent, A-list talent that would ordinarily be incredibly challenging to access for, within both the film and the TV traditional businesses. They've got all these exciting passion projects of theirs that they would love to get off the ground, because we recognize how hard it is to get your TV show made at the way that you want to actually have that show made without all the network intervention, or how virtually impossible it is to get your movie made without all of that studio intervention. Well, we're really focusing on being that creative sandbox that top talent can come and play in with these ideas that traditional networks, traditional studios wouldn't take a risk on. And that's through contrarian programming. There's a whole history to support contrarian programming dating to, look at the 70s with the whole studio system, really nourishing counterculture programming and counterculture storytelling in a way that the film business never really allowed before. And that led to a whole generation of what we view as the golden age of cinema. The early 80s with MTV, really embracing original, unique, edgy, emerging pop culture storytelling in a way that no other network at its time was. HBO in the late 80s, creating edgy originals in a way that no other network was. Look at Miramax in the 90s, really embracing the artistry of independent cinema, but bringing it within the banner of a major film studio and providing them with all those tools and resources to bring those stories to life in a bigger way that no other studios would allow them to. It allowed Miramax to build a very successful studio. And most recently, you could look at AMC on the network side in the 2000s of creating cerebral literary dramas that really helped define their network and stand out from all the other networks getting into the originals game. So that's really what we're focusing on, creating that contrarian, original, fresh programming that other networks are unwilling to take a risk on. We have a number of programs that we launched this year that align with this, with some really big, exciting talent. We did shows with Jack Black, Ed Helms, Cheryl Hines and Rachel Harris, Morgan Spurlock and John Stamos, some really exciting programs that I'll give you a peek of. We launched our comedy slate just a couple of months ago. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, got a little sizzle here to show you.
Club promoter Gay Liotta is back, and this time he's gone crazy.
Welcome to Burning Love.
It says you are 5 foot perfect for me.
Let's get this party started!
Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
It's Saturday Night Live.
Swing! I'm Gumby, damn it!
Media is so sensitive there, so secretive.
Sloppy swish. He'll hypnotize you. And make it feel inspiration. Don't tell them.
What'd you say? I want to say it again. It didn't make that much sense.
Heidi, you look really good.
Thank you. You look just fine.
How are we gonna explain this one to the chief, huh?
Oh, I actually do speak Chippewa, so if you need...
You shall take my daughter's hand in marriage, and Downton Arby's will be yours.
Actually, I just want to grab some extra horsey sauce.
Hey!
This little tiny man strikes fear in my heart.
You want me to kill the only person who's like me?
He's nothing like you. He's pure evil. And he's like a little bit taller. And he's rich. He's really rich. He's a criminal mastermind.
You can't save seats.
I'm saving these seats for celebrities.
We don't care.
These are for Cheryl Hines and Rachel Harris.
Who are they?
I have no idea.
I can't sit way up here like
Yeah,
this.
I'm claustrophobic and I'll get sick.
Max! Max! Max!
Cheryl! Why don't we have lunch next week?
Yeah.
You were being so weird.
What? No,
I told you not to be weird.
thought
This
you
needs
wanted
to be
to go
over
to
my
lunch.
head.
It's exciting. Can you feel it? It's palpable.
Hi, I'm John Stamos, one of the most handsome men you could think of off the top of your head.
This is so awkward. I really want you to leave.
Freeze, police!
You drop it, or the puppet is gonna die!
You do that, and I'll blow you so hard. Blow your head. You get it.
Oh, I love Robbie K's new shoes. What a boss.
Wake me up when this field goal's over.
What's the matter? We're about to get back out there.
I know, field goals are so boring.
I would love to impregnate you someday. Am I saying that right?
So tune in September 5th. So yeah, those are a bunch of the comedy shows that we launched in our slate just a couple of months ago. It's done incredibly well. We're really excited to double down on that whole effort moving forward. Now, I'll share a couple overall learnings from this experience of programming originals over the last couple of years. Number one, first and foremost, most importantly, content is king. And I know we hear it all the time, but I feel like you really can't drill it down enough. It's the one thing that our viewers are judging us on. They're here to listen to our stories, and we have to tell great stories. We have to wow them with how fresh, unique, and original these stories are. Context is an incredibly important tool, but that really helps fuel your launch. Context is that jet fuel that'll get your rocket off the launch pad, but to land on the moon, it's really about having an amazing show. The context is how Yahoo can get massive audience around episode 1, but the show needs to be able to live on its own, to actually build audience as it grows. And that's like something that we saw happen with Burning Love that was so incredible for us, was actually watching the audience grow as the show went on. With about 12 million viewers across that series, it did remarkably well. And a particular metric that we loved coming out of that series was that, keeping in mind how much content we actually create on Yahoo and how massive our network is, when we launched Burning Love that month, Burning Love was the #1 search term bringing new traffic into Yahoo, which really just said a lot about how this one particular show was just bringing new viewers to the network in a completely new and exciting way. That's really all about the strength of the content while utilizing the context to help drive that initial mass of viewership. Pairing the right elements together is a delicate matter. With talent can go a really long way, but we need to be thoughtful about how we are approaching talent and pairing them with the right project. Burning Love is a good example of a show that utilized talent in just the right way to both enhance the content experience, but also enhance the whole marketing experience around the show as well. You know, with Burning Love, because it was produced by Ben Stiller, directed by Ken Marino, we were able to bring in this wonderful ensemble of about a dozen established comedians to appear in that series. And what was great is that these comedians really helped to make the show a much better show, but the overall just social promotion, distribution of the series was really huge with all of this talent rallying behind each episode of the program. Production value. can go a really long way, but we need to be thoughtful about when we're making that a priority and when maybe it's not that important to have the world's greatest production value. A number of our programs, like Electric City that we did with Tom Hanks and Cybergeddon with Anthony Zeiker, these shows had massive production value that was incredibly ambitious for anything we'd ever seen on the web, but it also had a business model in place to really align for ancillary worldwide distribution following distribution on the Yahoo window. And you really need that production value to help drive all of those global sales of the content. Whereas other shows that we had, like Sports Friends and The Flip Side that we previewed there, these shows, had we doubled, tripled, quadrupled the budget, it really wouldn't have radically changed the quality of the program. But additionally, it wouldn't really have any impact on the model either, because the shows were never really meant to live in any other form. They made the most sense as 3-minute episodes on Yahoo, and so we were really focusing on creating a production value that aligned with that experience. Timeliness is a really important tool that we need to think about in the right way as well around programming. You know, with Burning Love, that tapped into something very timely by being a parody of The Bachelor. There was that whole built-in audience of folks who love The Bachelor could really rally behind the show. And our show Sketchy, like that Downton Abbey sketch that we previewed up here, Sketchy really aligns with just every single week something new and fresh that's popping in the pop culture zeitgeist, and either a parody or some sort of a form of leaning into that pop culture zeitgeisty aspect. And it's been working incredibly well for us. I'm just tapping into something that folks are already interested in right now. An existing audience can go a really long way in terms of just evaluating your program and building out something. Burning Love had that built-in audience across the social following of all those comedians who appeared in the series. But then looking at something like the celebrity interview series we did, which John Stamos, Losing It with John Stamos, each episode we interview a new celebrity about how they lost their virginity. And so each of these celebrities that we're interviewing on the show, they have their own built-in audience that would, of course, follow them to some types of content. But if the show is just another stop on the junket tour type interview, then there wouldn't really be all that reason to really tap into their existing following. But because the show was designed to create a fresh new perspective into the lives of these celebrities, we saw that as a great opportunity to tap that existing audience. Couple key points about selling a show, if that's what the goal is. And that's largely because the questions I tend to get asked align the most with these 4 points. So to get ahead of the Q&A, I thought I could touch on a few of these. One, most importantly, really understand the audience behavior of the network that you're meeting with. Every network is programming directly to their audience behavior, first and foremost. And what makes the space a little bit challenging, but also exciting, is that the audience behavior across every network, for the most part, varies. This isn't like television, where the audience behavior is for the most part the same across every single network, or film, where the audience behavior is the same no matter what movie you're going to see. The audience behavior on Netflix is very different than that on, say, Yahoo. On Netflix, you're sitting on your couch, it's Tuesday night, you got a bowl of popcorn in your lap, you've dimmed the lights, and you're going to spend the next few hours watching your show. Whereas on Yahoo, it's more of that stumble upon behavior. You're checking your email, you're on your phone, and you fall into a piece of programming. And then we want to grab you and hook you. So of course, we would program very differently than a Netflix would. And that applies to every single online distribution platform, because the audience behavior varies everywhere you go. It's very fragmented. Watch their shows. It sounds pretty obvious, but it's wild to me how often folks are coming in and ask the one simple question, what are you looking for? And in explaining the types of programs that we're looking to buy, I'll give examples of shows that we're doing, what's working, what maybe isn't working, where we're looking to double down, where we're looking to diversify. And as I describe these shows, it's clear that this person doesn't understand what I'm talking about because they haven't seen any of the shows. You really don't want to be that person. You should have a sense of what shows the network's creating so that you can engage in that type of a conversation, but also so that you could provide opportunities that either complement their existing programming or differentiate from their existing programming in a way that you could justify being a real win and an opportunity for that network. Understanding their business is also really important. Coming in with great content, a great story, great package, that's wonderful, but there's a lot of different ways that we could measure a win in this space. And I think having a clear sense of what that win is very important as you're going in and expressing what this opportunity is to a major distribution platform. Maybe the opportunity is to sell the show to a specific sponsor, and if so, how does that show align with that particular sponsor or that advertising category? Maybe the goal is to drive new audience and bring an off-network viewership in a new way for the network, which could be a priority depending on who you sit down with. Maybe the goal is to create ancillary distribution opportunities for this particular type of program that could scale out in new ways. It's just having a really clear sense of what those opportunities are, what the model is behind the program before you sit down, and making that a part of the pitch. And finally, focusing on your great idea. Too often, folks are coming in with their 15 one-pagers or log lines, and it's a lot of throwing ideas against the wall and waiting to see what sticks. Really, focus on those 1 or 2 ideas that you're really excited about, that you're really passionate about, those ideas that you really just believe should be made, and pour everything you can into those ideas. Work on packaging them with all the right talent that could really help make it a lucrative, compelling package for a network that has access to top talent already. Think about how you could shoot a piece of video to express your vision for the series, because ultimately nothing articulates video like video. So, final thoughts, just to wrap things up. The video landscape is shifting. It's creating a lot of really exciting opportunities for storytellers and for everybody involved in the storytelling business. But we need to be thoughtful about how we're approaching these opportunities. We need to be thoughtful about how we're crafting our stories and how we're crafting these experiences in a way that's fresh, unique, original, and innovative, leverages the whole shift in audience, leverages the shift in dollars, leverages the shift in top talent wanting to get involved. Because there's a lot of ways that you could pull together all of these opportunities to create really exciting, innovative advancements within storytelling. And most of all, we really need to just embrace this change. Because I personally believe that there's never been a more exciting time to be in the storytelling business. So thank you.
Thank you, Adam. We do have time for just 1 or 2 questions. Then we do need to open up the exhibit hall, and I'm sure Adam can stick around after we do that and answer some more questions. But are there any questions in the audience?
Thanks, Adam. Good presentation. Wondering on the original series, and I guess it depends on which one, what are you seeing in terms of playthrough rates on some of these new original series that you're rolling out? And what are you seeing in terms of stickiness, in terms of viewers going from one to the next and watching a whole series through? Pick any one of the new ones you're rolling out.
Sure, it really depends on the show. I can't get too specific into the metrics. There's a lot of metrics that we don't share. Overall, completion rates, retention rates, that's something I just can't really talk about up here. But overall stickiness, what I can say is that click-through is huge on a lot of our shows. We've been really pleased with how many of our original programs, just within the comedy slate, are getting even 2, 3, 4 episodes viewed per sitting. So we've been pleased with that.
I meant to ask about advertisers. What's the traditional advertising model? Are these pre-rolls, are these mid-rolls, post-rolls? How are advertisers getting in on this?
It's a couple of different ways. First and foremost, pre-roll. Additionally, there's integration into the episodes. There's the opportunity for advertisers to come in, integrate a product into the episode, work it into the storyline if we have enough lead-in to actually creatively work that in. There's the opportunity to buy all the media around that particular program, whether it's just the pre-roll, whether it's banners around the program, whether it's post-roll, even the opportunity to buy media on the homepage and all marketing media to help drive awareness for the program as well.
Great presentation. Thank you so much again, Adam.
Thank you.
And,